Good morning. Welcome to our second week in our series that we're calling Target because of the idea that's kind of thrown to us from Psalm 127 as we talk about the probably one of the most important social structures in the world, and that's the family. I mean, it is the seedbed for everything that happens within our life. It affects us either positively or negative throughout our entire living existence. And so God has several things to say about that. And in Psalm 127, he uses an illustration when he talks about arrows being children. And he says children are like arrows in the hands of a warrior. And so who's a parent here this morning? May I see your hands? Hands of warriors going up all over the auditorium. You guys are warriors because God has given you some arrows in your quiver, and every one of those arrows are different. They have different personalities. That's what we talked about last year too. And every arrow is different, and how we are able to get them ready to fly towards the target is a part of the process of kind of the aiming process that we have within our life. This week we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about the rhythm that's needed in order to launch those arrows towards a target. Last week we talked to Tim Galloway, who's our resident expert archer. He wouldn't agree to that, but that's get a lot of information. And I interviewed several other people, and they talked about the importance of whenever you're going to aim towards the target, there's a rhythm that you need to set up, a part of a breathing process that you have in the preparation to being able to launch the arrows towards the target. There is a practice that you need to go through over and over again to get into that rhythm of coming to the same place to knock your arrows and be ready to release that arrow. And so this morning we're going to talk about that rhythm in relationship to the home life that we have, and find out some things in which God wants to incorporate a cadence or rhythm within our own lives. Let me give you a definition for the idea of rhythm. This is, I don't know whether it's Webster's or one of those dictionaries. Sorry, I didn't put the source. Rhythm, a strong, actually read it with me, would you? A strong, regularly recurring sequence of events, actions, movements, or sound. What's not noted is what popped on my computer screen when it says, "Not for you, white boy." I don't know about that. Whenever I start clapping with the praise team on Sunday mornings, they all look at me and go, "Please don't do that. You have no rhythm." But I'm wanting to talk to you about creating a cadence or rhythm in your life that's very, very important for you and your family this morning as we go on. As I said, we're using Psalm 127 as our kind of our base camp. Let's kind of review it, what he says in the first couple of verses. He says, "Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in" what? Vain who build it. What does he mean by vain? It means you're wasting your time unless God is the very center, unless you set the foundation of your house that you're building with God and his principles, then it's really kind of a waste. You're going to see that you may build this nice little edifice, but it's not going to withstand the storms of life. And he says, unless the Lord guards the city, the watchman keeps awake in what? Vain. In other words, as you're constructing your house, if you don't have a certain foundation, or as we're talking about target within your family structure, then you may try to keep watch over that family, but as you do that, you're going to find some things that are just going to waste because it's not purposeful. It's not what's going to actually build the family up. And so he goes on to say this, "It is vain to rise up early." And once again, it's useless to rise up early and stay up late, working anxiously for food to eat. God gives rest to his loved ones. Now, what he's saying in this particular verse is the idea that there's this rhythm that we create within our life, the rhythm of rest and sleep, the rhythm of work and play, the rhythm of family and what we do within the family. There's all this rhythm and cadence within life. And if we're not careful within our own life, we establish some habits that are not really good. I don't know about you, but I have established at different times in my life, not really even thinking about it, some habits of sleeping, where I get up really early in the morning, I work really late at night, and in order to thinking I'm trying to make a success for myself, and I find myself, it's becoming vain because I'm not becoming very productive at work because there's an irregularity to my life. Or even on the other end of it, you get up early in order to go to work, and then it becomes college basketball season. And I have a real weakness for college basketball season. I have been known, and to my shame at different times, of sitting there watching Idaho play Hawaii at 2 o'clock in the morning and just getting so involved in that game because, after all, it's college basketball. There isn't anything better in the world, I mean, it's not like it's Duke versus Kansas, or something like that. I mean, we're talking Hawaii and Montana or something of that nature. But I get involved watching it. And then alarm goes off at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going, I got to get to work, and you're dragging yourself. And so there's this rhythm, a good rhythm, that God says He would like to establish within our life. And if we don't follow that rhythm, I mean, whether it is, it's not good for our health, it's not good for our families, it's not good for us spiritually, and you either too much or too less sleep can be detrimental to you. I mean, excuse me, I was surprised to find out that adults, if you get too little sleep or you get too much sleep, there's certain health problems that comes about as a result of that. Healthy adults, it is said that you need between 7 to 9 hours of sleep within your life. Less than that leads to different health risks. More than that also leads to health risk. They say that lots of times people who fight diabetes, they sleep way too much within their life, and part of that is their body. It's just a sign that there's something going wrong in your body. You may have thyroid problems, excuse me, in your life, and you may find yourself sleeping way more than that particular time. It's because there's something that's gone wrong in your metabolism. Too little sleep, there's symptoms of that also. Side effects can put to weight gain, lethargy, metabolism issues, forgetfulness. There's a problem with your skin aging too quickly. Forgetfulness, did I already say that? Oh, I didn't get much sleep last night, all right? Heart disease, things of that nature. Now, none of those symptoms are examples of what God would want in our lives. You agree to that? Isn't that agreeable? Yeah. And if you live by burning the candle at both ends, what happens is you have less candle to work with, all right? That's a given. You end up with old skin too soon, We won't go into that situation at all. I think this is just one small expression of kind of a larger intention that God has for us. In Ecclesiastes, the same guy that wrote Psalm 127 also wrote the book of Ecclesiastes. A guy by the name of Solomon. He's said to be the wisest man who ever lived. He says, for everything there is a season. How many of you have heard this chapter, this verse? Yeah. For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to harvest, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to tear down, a time to build up, a time to cry, a time to laugh, a time to grieve, a time to dance. Do you catch even in the wording of it? It's even more pronounced in the Hebrew language that there's kind of a cadence to that. There's a little bit of a rhythm that you hear within that. I mean, even this white boy can catch the rhythm of that thing, going with it. There's a time for these things, a time to dance, even for Christians, right? Do Christians dance? Yeah, let's put it, well, not very well, but they do dance. Okay, all right, go on to the next verse. A time to scatter stones, a time to gather stones, a time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search, a time to quit searching. Go ahead. Can we go to the next verse? A time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be quiet and a time to speak. Yeah. So, great illustration. I appreciate that. But this is how God built stuff, all right? There's this ebb and flow of how life should go, And within the four walls of your home, you're to find out that beat. You're to discover the rhythm, the cadence from God that, excuse me, that will help your home and your soul to thrive in your life. Listen to 1 Kings chapter 8. Now, this is from the a paraphrase, but I love what he has to say. He says, would you read it with me? Blessed be God, read with me, who has given peace to his people Israel, just as he said he'd do. Not one of these good and wonderful words that he spoke through Moses has misfired. What he's saying is the commandments that God gave the early Israelites, they ring true in life. They were a part of helping Israel set a cadence to their life. There's a part of them understanding a rhythm of life. He goes on to say this, may God, our very own God, continue to be with us just as he was with our ancestors. May he never give up and walk out on us. Amen to that. May he keep us what? Centered, balanced, being in rhythm. Goes on to say, and devoted to him, following the life path he has cleared, watching the signposts, walking at the what? Pace and rhythms he laid down for our ancestors. The prophet is saying here is that there is a pathway. There is some signposts along the way to help us to find a rhythm and a cadence within our life. And when we are able to discover that and help establish that within our family constellations as they grow up, it is beneficial to them. There's this rhythm. And as archers, for instance, we are given the responsibility of figuring these rhythms out. There are general guidelines that God has given us, principles that we need to be aware of in life that will help us to establish this rhythm in our life and will launch the arrows towards the target. Now, let me talk this morning. What I want to talk about is that there are some rhythms that we can establish within our homes that will help us to release those arrows towards the target. The first one is a rhythm in scheduling, all right? There's a rhythm in scheduling. All of life has schedules to it. I know that some people hate that word schedule, but it really is a help within our lives to be able to figure out a rhythm to our life, to get a cadence so that we have the proper amounts of rest and activity and purposefulness within our life. Scheduling, where you go, what you do, how much you commit to. And I want you to kind of feel empowered right from the beginning this morning. So I want you to say this phrase with me, all right? Ready? Okay, here's the phrase. I am in charge of my schedule. Would you say that with me? You didn't sound very enthusiastic about that. It was more like, I'm in charge of my schedule, you idiot. I'm not really. All right, I want you to say it with feeling and with meaning right now, all right? I am in charge of my schedule. And some husbands were actually pointing to their wives during that time. Okay? But really, we are. Every one of us is given the same 24 hours in a day, right? You're not in a prison, you know. We can at times feel like we're not in charge, but we are. Often we say, you know, I'm overbooked, I'm overscheduled, and it's easy to get that way within our life. And we feel like it's always somebody else's fault. It's not my fault, it's somebody else's fault. And we blame everybody else. Just a little confession time. And I can get overbooked extremely easy within my life. And there have been moments in my life that I have gotten extremely overbooked and allowed things to crowd out what were the more important things in my life were. My family, my own health at different times. And the result of that has not been a very good thing at all for me. It's been very detrimental to my life. And generally for my own life, sometimes it's because emergencies come up within different things. I'm basically on call most of the time, but I've learned to even figure out how to be not on call at different times within my life. And so 3 or 4 people think that they need my presence, and I don't want to disappoint them. So I say, okay, I can do that. And then I've already got, 6 or 8 other people that we've got scheduled in. I know that I've got to prepare for Sunday mornings. I know I've got to do the administration part of the church and all those different things. And the result is I allow myself to get overbooked. It's not anybody's fault but James's fault, because I am in charge of my schedule. And I'd like to blame somebody else, but the reality is It's because of poor decision making on my part. Now, I say that, and I know some of you are thinking, yeah, I know. But James, you're paid to just sit in the office and read the Bible, and that's all you do, you know. And so I live in the real world. I've got real struggles to do. Well, I'm glad to know that you are, you know, it's somebody else's fault besides your own that you're overbooked. But it's really not. We all have this same situation. And you sound tremendously busy. Let me say this. You and I have the same exact amount of allotted time as every single person on the planet Earth. We all have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Isn't that right? You're looking at this. Somebody told me that during first service they thought there was a body underneath here. There was. He didn't keep a schedule, all right? So I want you to pretend. You've seen probably this illustration before of how you put rocks and sand in this, and you show that you've got to put the big things, important things first. How many of you ever seen that illustration? May I see your hands? Okay, so since you already know that, I'm going to do a variation of it today, all right? So this is your week right here. Every one of us has the same week, same number of minutes. Can't remember how many minutes there are in a week. Same number of hours, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Everybody agree to that? Everybody's got the same thing, all contained right here. Same amount of time Abraham Lincoln had, all right? Same amount of time that Moses had. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He has to decide how he's going to use this time, all right? Same amount of time that Thomas discovered electricity, Edison had, all right? And he was able to do some amazing things in the 24 hours a day, 7 days a week that he had. But what he had to decide was, what's going to be important? What do I value the most? What is the target that I need to go towards? What do I say is the most important thing for me in my life? Now, I can't tell you what that is. I can tell you, if you're a follower of Jesus, that Jesus has already settled that question in your life. We talked about that last week. Every time Jesus was asked, what is the greatest commandment? What's the first and foremost commandment? He said the same thing every single time. The thing that needs to be the big rock in the bucket of this 24-hour period. He said, it's to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, all right? Everything about you needs to be going into loving the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. So does that mean you don't have time for anything else in life? No. It means that is your anchor. That is your target. And you arrange things around that will feed that, and it becomes the most important thing in your life. So let's just say that this big rock right here, actually this was made by my youngest child. I forgot, it says Mallory on the bottom, but we're going to pretend this is Jesus, okay? It's got a cute little bunny face, all right? So this is Jesus. He is the rock of my salvation. Lots of songs about that, right? But he is the main thing, and I am to love him, the Lord my God, with all my heart, my soul, and my strength, everything about him. So he goes in the bucket first because he is the most important thing. So in my schedule, I've got to figure out how to build my schedule around that one priority in my life. It is all that I do in that it emanates towards and affects every part of my life and in everything I do. Everything I do. Why do I go to bed? Because I love the Lord my God with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength. He made me. He wants me to find out the best for me. For several years, I conducted what's the optimum amount of sleep for me. I find if I go to bed at a certain time, I don't always do this, but if I go to bed at a certain time and my alarm goes off at a certain time, I feel the most rested during the day for the most part. And so how many hours? I find that it's about 7.5 to 8 hours. And I'm at my peak performance whenever I do that, all right? And so I am loving the Lord my God with all my heart, soul, and strength when I find out that rhythm in my life. So how else do I support this idea of loving the Lord my God with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength? I think there's some activities that will help us. Part of this is the whole idea of abiding in Christ, because Jesus says in John 15, I'm the vine and you be the branches, all right? And unless you are part of me, you have nothing. So I've got to figure out how to abide in his love, how to love him back through the things that I do. So how do I do that? What can support that? One of the things I believe is you remember the target, which is to love the Lord your God with what? We're getting weak on this. We need to be stronger, okay? The target is to love the Lord our God with what? Heart, mind, soul, and strength. All right, so how can I do that? I think probably the first way, you have 7 days during the week. So every morning, he gets the first moment of every day. So on Sunday, he gets the first moment of the day. On Monday, he gets what? First moment of every day. On Tuesday, the first moment of the day. On Wednesday, first moment of every day. On Thursday and Friday and Saturday, he gets the first moment of every day. That means when I bound out of bed, or when I very reluctantly worm my way out of bed, however it is I get out of bed, he gets my first thought, my first moment of every day. It's important because you're just acknowledging his presence in his life and that God is first in all things. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these other things will be added to you. So the first moment of your day, when I roll out of bed, my first thought is generally something that I need to just think. Thank you for getting me through the night. Thank you for some things that happened yesterday. Thank you for giving me things to do today. Sometimes it's, thank you, God, I'm going to roll to my knees and do my stretching exercises so I can make it through the day. Whatever it might be, he gets the first moments of every day. That can be expanded in having a daily quiet time with God. And what I mean by that is a time that you set aside, that you are in his word, and you're spending some time in prayer. Doesn't have to be a long time, but it has to be some time. I believe it's best in the morning. We are told, in the morning, Lord, you will hear my voice in the morning as I lay my requests before you. But I found that doesn't always fit everybody's rhythms. I've got a good friend that it's the end of the day for him. He ends the day by reviewing his day and then saying his priorities for the next day before he goes to bed. Whatever fits best in the rhythm of your life, but somehow you've got to be acknowledging and looking for the wisdom that God wants to put in your life every single day. And it needs to be some of your first moments of your day. So on Monday, he gets the first moment. And on Tuesday, he gets the first moment. And on Wednesday, first moment. And Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Are you getting tired of hearing these rocks? Because it's every day. And it begins to build a rhythm within your life that God wants to have in your life. Those are established practices. Sometimes we call them habits. Most of us can't stand the word habit. Oh, habit. Oh. And yet habits or practices are what builds success in our life. As an athlete growing up, we had to do in basketball and in football and in tennis, most every sport I played, there were certain drills that you had to do over and over and over again because those practices, those habits built memory into your muscles to be able to perform better. How many of you have ever played the piano? I see your hands. Okay. If you've ever played the piano and took piano lessons, you had to do something that I hated to do. It's called scales. You remember? Scales? You know what scales are? They were like scales, dragon scales as far as I was concerned. I did not do them every day as my piano teacher said I should do. And as a result, she suggested that I play baseball. Because I would practice baseball. I would not practice my music, and I had no rhythm either. So what I'm saying is anything that you want to be successful in, you will build up a positive memory muscle for that sport or for that activity, and the same is true in your spiritual life. If you want to be strong spiritually, you need to be in the Word. There just is not any substitute. I know some of you saying, "Oh, I don't like to read." That's okay. Listen to it and learn to read. And you'll find that it will give you strength within your life. And when you don't have that, you'll also find that you will have a weakness in your life. Second thing that help you to learn to love the Lord your God, another habit that you can establish to help build that rhythm in your life is the whole idea of gathering each week with God's people before scattering into a world that needs God's love. You need the strength that comes on weekly gathering with other people of God, being taught the Word of God. As a matter of fact, it says in the book of Hebrews, which was written to a group of people who were finding their love for God growing cold in their life. Matter of fact, they were retreating, and they were falling away from God. And whoever wrote the book of Hebrews said, hey guys, listen to me. You're forgetting a very important habit. You're forgetting an important practice that will help you in your life, and that is meeting with other Christians. So he says, let's hold fast to the confession of our hope without wavering. In other words, you're losing hope. You're in the midst of the week. You're getting slammed over and over with people who are heaping criticism on you, that are just driving you crazy and hurting your life, and there's stress on you, and you're beginning to lose that hope that God has any help for me at all. He says, hold on to that hope without wavering. He's faithful in this. But here's how you get strength. He goes on to say this, next verse. Let us consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds, not neglecting to meet together, as the habit is of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as the day draws near. So he says this, when you meet together in church, one of the things that's supposed to happen in church is you're looking around for other people to see how you can stimulate, to encourage one another to love and good deeds. From the teaching you receive as we meet together, from the time of praise and singing, all of that encourages you of how to handle life, all right? But when you neglect that, you begin to lose the love of the Lord your God that you're supposed to have with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And when you become weaker in that, it's quite often because you're missing that big rock of every week meeting, so that it will strengthen the love that you have for the Lord your God. Now there's another rhythm that's probably needs to be a part of our schedule, and that's this. Let's go to the next one if we could. Third one is to serve God in the church and the world so you don't cultivate a consumer mentality. Gosh, I've been trying to figure out how to say this all week without offending you. And I have not come up with a good idea, so I'm just going to go ahead and offend you, okay? You got it coming to you, all right? There is a default that I have, and there's a default that you have. The default is towards selfishness. No amens on that one? We don't like to hear that, but it's a reality. We have to be kept in front of us our tendency to be selfish and want everything the way we want it, without the idea of what we do is to help serve other people so they can love the Lord their God with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so by serving others, that's one of the ways that we can cultivate a way to put aside that consumer mentality. So each day of the week, as I serve God, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, those are all different habits that help strengthen this whole idea of loving the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, all right? So there's another habit that will help us with this, and that is the one that's maybe perhaps the toughest one of all of them. I'm talking primarily to parents here. But to incorporate into your schedule, prayerfully choosing the extracurricular activities that you want to bring in to your family. Now, wait a minute. I know I'm treading on sacred ground here, because I know that when I was growing up, I wanted to do everything. I mean everything. Every single thing. If there was an activity, I wanted to be there. I wanted to be on top of it. I wanted to participate in every sport. And I got to tell you, my parents didn't rein me in, and it was difficult on me because we were running everywhere, really scattered. And I'm not sure that's always good for families, because some of those activities begin to consume us and block our view, because it just becomes ground stuff that we throw in the midst of loving the Lord our God, and actually it covers up a lot of stuff. We just lose our target. We get so involved in the activity, we lose our target. And when there's something that we're running to every single night that's driving us all over the state or the country, and every bit of passion and creativity that we have goes into those activities that will not last, that's not wise. There's only one thing that's going to last for an eternity, and that's what's inside of you, your soul. It's the only thing that will last. And if all we're doing is building in those extracurricular activities, and they're generally things that have some great shiny little baubles mixed in them. I mean, they look so attractive. We go to beauty pageants, and our little girls can look so nice. Nothing wrong with those, but they can become distractions to where they become our entire focus of our life and cover up what the target is. And the target is to what? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Now, if you want your arrows going towards beauty pageants matter most, target, then by all means do that. But if you want to point your arrows that says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, then you need to put that into the rhythm of your schedule. It's not that you cut out those, but you choose which extracurricular activity that they take up. And I say that, and I see written across your face the same thing was written across my face at the time is, man, that would change everything. That would mess up my whole schedule. Yes, it would. I seem to recall that Jesus said, if any man would come up and follow me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. And in our following of Jesus, I find that I constantly run up to things that I realize are not the healthiest thing for my Christian walk. And I must adjust my schedule. And there comes a crisis in some ways in my life. Am I going to take this as first place, or am I going to take Jesus as first place? And it requires an adjustment within my schedule. And there's kind of a crisis in my life whenever I have to do that. It comes on a regular basis in our life. But in order to love him, sometimes I have to deny self. There's times I have to put self on the shelf and not let it be an elf on the shelf, and decide, I'm going to do what's going to help me love him more in my life. And friends, anything in your life that keeps you from following Jesus, a change needs to take place. That thing needs to be eliminated. And you don't have to do that, but you won't be on target. You can have a train wreck if you want to. Now, I'm not saying don't be involved in sports or dance or clubs or whatever, but as a follower of Jesus, that involvement is good if your participation, if you're reminded, and it makes it a part of your kid's life that we're doing this as a follower of Jesus, and he is the most important, and we're here to minister to other people on the soccer field. We're here in order to be salt and light to them at the baseball stadium. Remember the target when you're choosing activities that you want to bring into your home. Build the rhythm in your life that will bring about the maximum effectiveness to your arrow reaching the target. Not everything you can do should you do. The good is often the enemy of the best. And there's times you just have to say no. Second, there's a rhythm to rest. There's a day off. There's a day to work. There's time for vacation. There's a time for stepping back. I mean, it's a rhythm that's been from the very beginning. If you remember in the very beginning, God created the earth in how many days? 6 days. And on the seventh day, what did he do? He watched the OSU and OU play. No, I don't know. But on the seventh day, he rested. If you watched OU yesterday, you didn't get any rest. But anyway, that's beside the point. Just a side remark, okay? Seventh day, he rested, all right? So there's a time to pull back. That's a part of a rhythm of life. And it's important to have that margin in life. Unfortunately, most of us want to write to the very end of the page and off the page. And so as a result, we kind of, we lose stuff in the process. You know, it's important to actually establish those times where you can rest and you can actually be with your kids at times. You know, those family times are great. Building a fire in a fire pit in your backyard and roasting hot dogs. Even better if it's s'mores, all right? You know, having the time, creating the time where we had a trampoline. I hated that trampoline. I could not bounce on that thing worth anything. I think before we moved here, we spent a night over at the Whitaker's house, and we were in. So we went in the backyard, and my oldest daughter was jumping on the trampoline. So I decided I'd jump with her. And I jumped, and the first thing I did is I planted my nose in bird poop right there. And that's kind of my sum deal of doing a trampoline. But they're also great for overnights on the trampoline, you know, slumber parties with your kids on the trampoline, looking at the stars, just of creating some rest time and time with your kids by yourself. It's a great deal. Learning to have margin in your life is so important. And the only way to create margin is to make sure in your schedule, because who's in charge of your schedule? I am. And so creating those times to where you learn to breathe. I read this quote from the head coach of the USA archery team. Kind of long, but listen. Breathing is a huge part of the drawing rhythm of archery. When you pull back, take a huge breath in, and then as you aim, let 50% of it out. Then hold it. Then as a part of the follow-through, release the additional 50%. And he went on to say that the correct technique of breathing is an essential part of control in archery. Most archers know less about breathing than any of the other fundamentals from archery. And as a result, their arms waver, but those who understand breathing and its impact upon performance have an advantage. Moral of the story, in order for us to shoot our arrows towards that target, we've got to build some margin into our schedule. We need to find out what our rhythm is and schedules of rest, and knowing exactly what that is. Only you can figure that out when you need to schedule those times of rest. Third, I'm going to go on shaky ground here, but support of loving the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, because that's the target that we're shooting for, right? The third rhythm that you need to put into your life is the rhythm of romance, all right? This is going to sound strange, but remember last week's one I said everybody needs to get naked in their house. So this kind of relates to this, okay? So if you didn't get that, you need to go back and listen to the deal. It's going to be on the website about another 3 minutes, and then I'm taking it off, okay? It's vital. It's vital to date your mate. And it's a part of loving God, believe it or not. Because God says you're to love your wife. You're to love your spouse. And it's vital that you pursue the one you perhaps have already caught. Why? Proverbs 5:18 says this, let your wife be a fountain of blessing for you. Rejoice in the wife of your youth. Lovely as an angel, beautiful as a rose, pretty poetic, isn't he? Don't ever quit taking delight in her body. Never take her love for what? Granted. So here's a guideline, all right? We're running out of time. Here's a guideline. 2 date nights per month, okay? Minimum. 2 date nights a month. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have filet mignon every time, all right? How many of you know that there's a Costco now in Tulsa? How many of you know that? Okay? Costco's kind of like Sam's. You say, where's he going with this? All right. You know, I said last week that a good time sometimes is just going, a good date night. Go to Costco, go to Sam's, you got 2 choices, and just graze there. Very inexpensive. All right? You know, Try out new foods that are there in the frozen section, Ching Chong Chow's, chow mein, all those sorts of things that you can go. Very inexpensive, it's kind of fun. Ooh, I like these chicken wings. Let's take some of these home with us, Great orange juice. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be expensive. It can be inexpensive. But it can be something that you go and you're with each other and you concentrate on each other as you share little bites of wonton with one another, just a romantic evening, all right? It can be just walking around the park or playing Frisbee. And just 2 nights a month minimum, all right? Now, I know some of you going, got a verse for that one? Actually, I do, all right? Exodus 20:14. Yeah. You shall not commit adultery. The best way not to have sex with someone you are not married to is to have sex with someone you are married to. Okay? Seriously, guys, intimacy is a vital part of you. Yeah, well, go ahead and clap. Don't clap for me, but you do the other, okay? Intimacy is vital, keeping romance alive in your marriage. And if this crucial aspect of marriage is absent, then there is the temptation to look elsewhere. It's not a guarantee, but it does help establish and keep those intimacy bonds and helps it to thrive. It's been proven that intimacy reduces stress, encourages the growth of brain cells, I'm not lying, improves immunity, creates deeper connection, boosts the sense of well-being, burns calories. Lowers blood pressure, and makes you look younger. I mean, it's quite a list. Now, just a note to guys, all right? It probably wouldn't be a good idea to say to your honey, I just want you to look younger. Just don't go there, all right? Personally, I'm in favor of encouraging the growth of brain cells, so we'll go on with that. I can get in trouble so easy, you know that? Intimacy is not just intercourse. A hug, long hug, followed by a kiss, cultivates intimacy. A back rub, oh yeah. Holding hands. You have my permission, married couples, as you go out the door, you're free to engage in interdigital romance. That is the technical term for holding hands as you walk out to the car, all right? You can do that. Laughter. Laughter is a great way to improve romance. Sometimes we can get so serious, and laughter is a great coping mechanism in our life. Tree and I will celebrate 46 years marriage in January. We were married at age 9. We were married young, but we've had our ups and downs. I'm difficult to live with. We're both very, very strong. You don't have to amen that part. We're both very strong-willed, but one of the things that keeps our marriage alive and cooking is humor. Nobody can make me laugh like my wife can make me laugh. And I don't know why, but she's one of the few people that laughs at least 60% of my jokes. And we have had some of the best times in our empty nest time of being on a trip or walking together and talking, and we just start laughing at some stupidity, or something that's come up. And it's a great intimacy bonding time of laughing together. So if you're not laughing, maybe you're taking yourself too seriously yourself. And perhaps, just perhaps, you need a dose of humility so you can laugh at somebody else's stupid jokes. Because it takes humility to do that sometimes. not a lot about our pride. So our whole deal with this is not letting stuff crowd out and take importance over the target. The target is loving the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. All of it. And the way you do that is by building certain habits around you that then helps you in launching your arrows towards the target. Now, I find that when we start talking about scheduling and rhythms within our life, every one of us has something in our life that's out of a rhythm. We all do. And sometimes we recognize it, but our pride within us just goes, I'm not going to do that. And we become like a 2-year-old tantrum with doing it inside. And it's horrible when you observe it in somebody else, but the problem is we don't observe it or we don't see it within ourselves. And in those moments, in order to help reestablish that rhythm that needs to come in our life, there needs to be a confession time. And so here's the bottom line of this. If somewhere in this morning you see an area of your life that's not in rhythm, I'm going to just ask, this is the invitation is for every one of us. We're going to bow our head. And if there's something that you need to confess that's out of rhythm, this would be a great time to drop the pride act and confess it to someone who already knows it's there and can help you bring it back into the cadence and the rhythm that goes best with how he has created you. So I'm going to ask that you bow your heads right now. And just ask God, what am I doing in my life? What attitude, what practice is robbing me from really aiming towards the target of loving you with everything I've got?